Bi-monthly Human Resources Personnel Changes. It is November 10th, 2022, and the time is 11:02 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Filios, and Duncan. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll get right down to business. Item 1 is a request for pay increase for 2 Sheriff's Office temporary seasonal, and I believe Captain Miller will be handling this.
Good morning, Commissioners. Stu Miller for the record. Yes. I have 2 temporary seasonal employees. Combined, they have over 70 years of service to the county, 72, I think. Both of them, their wage is much lower than all the other temp seasonals. But the other fact is that when we went through our recent pay increases for this last thing, these 2 obviously were left out, the temp seasonal positions were left out. And I'm trying to get them up to where I think that they should be within the agency for the jobs that they do. One is assigned to the front desk at the jail, handles all the incoming mail to the jail, receiving packages, that kind of stuff, sets up the booths for visiting, attorney-client visits, dispenses the mail, does a ton of other things. And the other one's assigned to our warrants division and currently serves as a clerk in both of those in that position as well. My proposal is to bring them up to 20 an hour. I have one other seasonal temp employee in the same job classification as a jail technician that makes $21.09 an hour, plus $1.50 an hour for a training stipend. And both of these employees make $18.50 an hour. One makes has a training stipend of $1.50, so he makes 20 an hour already, basically $18.50 plus his training stipend. So my suggestion is to bring them all up to $20 an hour, or those 2 employees. Brandy ran some numbers for me, and it would be an increase to our budget, FY23 of $4,869, and then FY24, $5,387. She also ran some numbers on projections. Right now, my temp seasonal, because I have so many folks that are being paid out of that, all my part-time transport folks are paid out of that at $30 an hour. And I don't know if I have any other clerks that are paid out of that, that I will be overspent in that line item. And overall, my A budget, I think she figured it was gonna be about, on the current projection, that is not the email, she sent me a ton of emails this morning. Very grateful to Brandy for sending me all those. I want to say it was 100.5% overall. I don't see my email though. But that includes is due to my temp seasonal pool being used so much, and then my overtime. So I'm already addressing the overtime issue, and I'm hoping that with we're actually having a pretty successful year of hiring folks, that my temp seasonal numbers will go down as well as my overtime will go down. And also trying some other ways to mitigate that. So I'm certain that I can get those numbers down. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, it's $4,869 increase in my base budget.
I'm comfortable at this point, just because you got to keep these temp workers, and I am excited about the possibility of getting some more permanent people on board in the future. We can always look at this in April and decide, okay, well, we're just running out, so they're just gonna have to work less hours.
Right.
Right. So that's fine with me. Bill, Chris?
I'm fine.
I think I'm generally okay. A question for Sylvia. Could you just address the policy issue, please, Sylvia?
The policy issue related to compensation?
Yes.
With temp seasonal, they're not really on any kind of a pay matrix. So it's really based on what the departments have recommended. We do try and keep them aligned if they're jail technicians in that pay range, but there isn't anything specific related to it. So this would be a board discretionary issue to go ahead and increase it or not.
Okay.
Okay. With no other questions, motion?
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm confused. I mean, I'm going to do what Stu said. raise the pay to $20 an hour for the two sheriff's office temporary seasonal employees. Is that it, or is there more?
No, that's it.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Commissioner Filios,
Aye.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion carries. Item number 2, request to convert residential appraiser 1 to a residential appraiser 2. And Ben, will you be leading this? Shelley?
Shelley Amos for the record. This is an individual who just completed certification for a property tax appraiser as of October 15th. We are looking at, with this certification, taking this from an appraiser 1 position to an appraiser 2, which changes their pay grade from a 7 to an 8. And we're requesting that this pay grade be done for this individual that just completed it, and dating back to the certification of October 15th. And it is in the FY23 budget.
Do you know how many conversions that were budgeted for? Or how many more appraiser 1s you're expecting this year to move up?
Ben Crowder, Chief Deputy for the record. We don't know the exact number of conversions we have budgeted. I looked into the fiscal year 23 budget. I couldn't see an exact number. I know we've budgeted for some amount. Maybe if Brandy could elaborate on that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a terminology difference, but when you say in the budget, no upgrades were budgeted for the assessor's office. I assume they're just saying salary savings.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So we I think, went forward and allowed some of these conversions without funding because we knew that there was going to
Be enough, yeah.
be enough.
Okay,
going
so
there.
everything is running off of salary savings.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So we'll be basically taking them up essentially case by case.
Yes, we will, because as they get their certification.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And I just know that in the past, they've let us know each year, you know, approximately how many conversions they're expecting based on the education. So, any questions?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move therefore that we approve the request to convert residential appraiser 1 to residential appraiser 2 for our assessors division. End of motion.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Filios,
Aye.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, motion carries. And just for clarification, there are no residential 2 appraisal openings. That's why this is a conversion and not just a moving the person into a different position. Okay, item 3, request for relocation stipend, assessor's office. Shelley again? Oh, now it's Ben. Fine.
Ben,
I had a
for the record.
50-50 chance.
Morning, Commissioners. So the Assessor's Office respectfully requests that the Board of County Commissioners approve a request for a relocation stipend. This has been reviewed by Sylvia from HR and Brandy from Auditor's Office. So the following language has been written into this conditional offer of employment, and it is being currently used by the Sheriff's Office for all relocation pay. They're paying $2,500. We're requesting $2,000. And this is the wording for that. So should you voluntarily leave employment with Kootenai County within 1 year of the date of hire, you agree to return the moving bonus by way of payroll deduction. This is obviously to ensure that Kootenai County gets a good return on investment. And we do have this in the budget for FY23, and we respect the request you approve this expense.
Okay. Do we have to go into executive session, or can you just say, is this for a 1, 2, or 3?
This is for a manager.
Oh, a manager position. Okay, perfect.
Which end, residential or commercial?
It would be for commercial.
Commercial, okay.
All right, questions?
I'm good.
No?
Motion?
Want me to take it, Bill?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I move that the Board of County Commissioners approve a relocation stipend for our assessor's office for a commercial division manager at the rate of $2,000, consistent with county policy. End of motion.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Filios,
Aye.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 4, request for distribution of annual budgeted stipends, BOCC Department, and our Administrative Supervisor, Leanna Kaiser.
Yes. Good morning. So this is an annual stipend that the commissioners, the board, offers to the commissioner's staff annually. This is an item that we've budgeted for. So according to the personnel matrix guideline, we're requested to receive approval for this stipend in an open meeting. So today I come before you just to ask your approval for this. It's a total of $500
And budgeted.
and budgeted.
Okay, any questions? All right, motion?
I move that we approve the request for distribution of annual budgeted stipends to BOCC administrative staff.
Second.
Commissioner Filios?
Aye.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Item 5, request for position overlap. This is the Juvenile Diversion Probation Officer and be our prosecuting attorney's office and our chief deputies here.
Good morning, Commissioners. Art Verheeren with the Prosecutor's Office. The first request is a request to essentially have a 2-week overlap with a retiring juvenile diversion probation officer. Annette is retiring in January, and we would request 2 weeks to basically double pay that position in order to train up a probation officer.
All right, and let me see if I have the, it's a $5,000 increase for 2 weeks. That seems a little.
So I don't know what step the new person will be hired at.
Okay,
So I just,
gotcha,
to be conservative, said step 5, because that's the highest they could do without board approval.
gotcha.
And that's loaded,
Okay,
and that's 3 weeks. And like I said, the current person is a step 6, so if they brought anyone in below that, annually, it'll be a savings.
right,
So it's
exactly.
kind of difficult without knowing what the new person will come in at.
All right, I'm good. So any
Fine.
questions? Bill?
Okay, I will move therefore that we approve the request for position overlap for the Juvenile Diversion Probation Officer for a period of 2 weeks. End of motion.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Filios?
Aye.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye, motion passes. All right, and now we're on to item 6, reclassification results and request for new grade adoption. And this is the legal executive assistant. And once again, Art for the prosecutor's office. I will mention that this was started during Barry McHugh's tenure. However, because of some other things, it was kind of pushed to the back burner, so.
As we've grown over the years, the job of the office manager grew too much for one person to do it all. And so it has been kind of split into 2 people. And the second person that took on a number of the duties of the this specific job is Carissa Cox. And what we're asking is that basically she get retitled to reflect what she does in the office. And, you know, as an example, what she's doing is essentially all the budget work. She is doing the case management system work. She is doing a number of things that are related to running the office, and what we're requesting is that her job classification reflect that.
Okay, and Sylvia, anything to add on that?
So I have done an analysis of the job, Dorothy Cross for the record, and it does look like it should change from a grade 6 to a grade 8 to be consistent with the work that she is doing and has been doing for the last year.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
No.
Right, then I would take a motion.
I move that we approve the reclassification results and request for new grade adoption, legal executive assistant through human resources.
Second.
Commissioner Filios?
Aye.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye, motion passes. And now this is the request for pay increase as a result of the reclassification. And my understanding is, I just had it in front of me, they'd actually be going down, they'd be going down from a step 11 to a step 5, but up to grade 8. So very minimal increase at $1,300. Art, did you have more to add?
Just to touch on what Dorothy brought up, the move in the grade and the slight pay increase, 53 cents an hour, would reflect what she's currently doing.
Okay, questions?
I'm good.
Bill, Chris, okay?
Okay,
They will want it retro to pay period 22.
Okay, and then also what we did not do is make the appraiser one retro to October 15th. So I think we can handle that in a minute. All right, so who wants to handle this?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Okay, so I move that we approve the pay increase as a result of the reclassification for the legal executive assistant, going from a grade 6 to a grade 8, and it's retroactive to pay period 22. End of motion.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Filios,
Aye.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion passes. Darren, can we just go back and make a new motion? Okay, so for item number 2, October 15th, retroactive. So, I don't know who wants to, amend the motion for item number 2.
Okay. So I will move that we amend item number 2, which was the request to convert residential appraiser 1 to residential appraiser 2, which we previously approved, and to show that the increase is retroactive to October 15th of 2022. End of motion.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Filios,
Aye.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye, motion passes. Okay. Now we are on to item 8, holiday policy. So Sylvia, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I can start if you'd like.
Okay.
At the last elected officials meeting, there was discussion about the Juneteenth holiday and potentially giving the elected officials the ability to trade that holiday with potentially the day after Thanksgiving. So we bring it forward today. We had indicated at that meeting that we would discuss it today. And I'm seeking guidance on whether we need to make a policy change on this to reflect that. Because Juneteenth is the board-approved holiday at this point.
Okay. This has kind of come up just because the treasurer's office doesn't really have much of a choice. I mean, you're not going to take off the day before property taxes are due. I think that's irresponsible and not a good service to the citizens of the county. So the treasurer decided that he wanted to trade the policy. So this board discussed it and came to an agreement at elected officials meeting that each EO would determine how they want to go forward. And I think in January, a policy, we do need to have a slight revision to the policy that the EOs have to kind of claim it in January. What are you going to do? You know, you're going to, as your whole department, going to take off Juneteenth, or you're going to take off day after Thanksgiving. So that is number 1. Number 2, we have to discuss the BOCC departments. I would like to take it up at the department head luncheon next week, because I already know of 3 departments who want to make the exchange. If BOCC can handle it as one, you know, like we just make the decision, every BOCC department either does Juneteenth or the day after, that'd be great. I would prefer not to split the 17 departments and say, okay, well, 3 take it this year and 4 take it next year. I think it's too confusing, and I don't want to keep track of that. So that's where I'm at right now. So I'd like thoughts on that policy. Chris, Bill?
I'm fine with taking it up at the EO meeting next week. I'm okay with that.
Department head meeting?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right, so then we can get a consensus, and we have, you know, if we've got 12 out of 14 departments that want to take that, that thing, then that'll be great. So, yeah, so in January, if we can have a policy kind of written, policy change to go forward.
Okay.
So, and for me, I do want to review it every January, because this especially is going to be our first year, see how it works. If we find an EO that says, oh, it's, you know, not good, then I think they should have the ability to revert back to changing their decision. So just gives
So what we're
flexibility.
saying specifically is trading Juneteenth for the day after Thanksgiving. Is that
Correct.
correct? Specifically that day? Okay.
Specific, because once again, you're going to get into that. You can't keep track of this floating holiday. It's going to be a
Right.
nightmare. And we already have solid waste and KCSO that has holiday issues anyway, so, and juvenile detention and all these 24/7 operations, so. Okay, so with that, you have direction. I don't think we need a motion on that. All right, and now I want to go to item 10 to poll my fellow commissioners to see if we need to go into executive session. You were in receipt, maybe you weren't, of the email from Darren this morning that talked about the temporary overtime policy. So do you feel like we need to go into executive session to flesh it out?
No.
Okay, and you, no.
No.
Okay, so we will go ahead and handle item 10 because we don't need an executive session. So we'll handle, actually, we don't even need 10. So we'll handle 11, and then we'll go back to number 9, which does require an executive session. So Sylvia, did you want to kind of lead this, or do you want me to start it?
I can start it if you'd
Okay.
like. With the temporary overtime policy, we have 3 pay periods remaining till it is scheduled to sunset and be potentially looked at again, actually. And so in discussions with payroll, the sheriff's office, we wanted to just review the policy and make sure that we're on track with how the board intended it to be. So the board had approved that in the calculation for actual hours worked would be holiday pay and pre-approved vacation. And this is for your non-exempt employees and your sworn. And so I had written up just some information for the board to look at because it's a little complex when you're looking at the calculation of overtime for these hours. And I'll just summarize where we were going with it. The other component that was approved was court time pay, and there's no concerns with that one. But per policy 211, overtime hours for non-exempt positions will be calculated when actual hours worked exceed 40 in 1 week. With the temporary overtime policy, all hours from the following categories within the 40-hour work week are used to calculate overtime hours. That includes your actual hours worked, holiday time and pay, and pre-approved vacation. Then for the sworn, also it's similar to what we're doing with non-exempt, but per policy 213 and amended by the Board of County Commissioners on March 10th, overtime hours for non-exempt law enforcement positions will be calculated when actual hours worked exceed 80 hours in a pay period. Policy, it said 86, we've been doing 80. With the temporary overtime policy, all hours from the following categories within the 80-hour pay period are used to calculate overtime hours. Of course, that is your actual hours worked plus holiday pay and pre-approved vacation. Court time pay would still be counted as at time and a half, whether you worked 40 hours or not. So if you were called in by subpoena to testify in court and you're on a day off or you're not scheduled those hours, that is automatically calculated at time and a half. So we wanted to also indicate that whether the employee is classified as non-exempt or law enforcement, sworn non-exempt, all other leave such as jury duty, sick leave, bereavement leave, and any leave of absence will not be used in calculating overtime hours. All overtime worked must be authorized in advance by the elected official, department head, or their designee. So for pay periods 24 through 26, we just wanted to bring that forward and ensure that that's how we were doing our processing of payroll.
Okay, any questions on that? All right. What I just want to take a minute to do is, when we're talking about revisiting this, I'm comfortable giving direction right now. So I would say going forward, to make part of the temporary policy permanent would be keep law enforcement at 80 hours, because the 86 wasn't being followed anyway, and then keep the court time at time and a half, because that affects adult misdemeanor probation and all of KCSO. So that would be my suggestion, and then they're already working on updating the holiday policy. So if you guys are comfortable with that, or if you want to make additions or subtractions, they can start working on that policy as well. So we don't come into a place where, okay, it's ended now, now what do we do? I'd rather have that policy in place for when it ends.
I'm comfortable with what was outlined.
Okay?
Which essentially is what's outlined in this memo. So we can, in a
Except-
Except
Yeah.
we wouldn't do the holidays and pre-approved vacation.
Those two items would go away after the temporary policy ends. Potentially, if that's the board's decision.
So essentially, we're going back to the old policy with the exceptions of the 80 hours and court at time and a half.
right, because it used to be 86, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable, I would like to give them direction to clean that up as well.
Let's do it.
Yes, yes. Okay, great. And I don't think we need any kind of motion for that. All right, we're all on the same page for the next 3 weeks, and then we'll get that policy in place before it ends, before the temporary one ends. And now, we do have an executive session. So if anybody would like to get us in there, thank you, folks, for coming today.
Grace.
Thank
do
you.
and Brand?
Are we back to 9?
Yes, I'm sorry. We are back to 9, which is a 1B, and it's several matters, not necessarily negative matters. So just ones requiring us to talk about personnel.
Got it.
So
Somebody want to move to go into exec?
So I move that with regard to item number 9 on our agenda this morning, that we enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061B, as in boy.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Filios?
Aye.
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
aye. All right, we're in. 11:45 a.m. And is there a motion to exit executive session?
I move that we exit executive session with staff to proceed as discussed and to acknowledge the presence of our Deputy Civil Prosecuting Attorney, Darren Murphy. End of motion.
I second the motion.
Commissioner Filios?
Aye?
Bill Brooks?
Aye.
Chair Duncan?
Aye, and we are to public comment. None. 11:45, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.